What is going on, Florida State family? Seminole Nation, the 863 Tribe. It's your boy POLK, a.k.a. A.Lo, a.k.a. The Goddamn Truth. Episode 124 of Hangover. You can see from the title where this live stream is going. Not only do you have a clown coach, and we're going to get into it, but you have a program that reeks of unseriousness. How are y'all doing on your Tuesday? I decided to go live Tuesday and not Monday because everybody seemed to have a point to make on Monday, and rightfully so. So I just figured I'd lay back, listen to other people, and then get on here Tuesday and give my piece. If you don't know, I did a halftime reaction. FSU ended up losing to Stanford. 4 straight losses, 9 straight ACC losses. 4 straight losses for the third time in the Mike Norvell era, right? I believe that's the third time. The losses are accumulating so much in the Mike Norvell era that it's hard to keep track how many losing streaks this is and how much he keeps losing. It's embarrassing, but not shocking, I guess. What is shocking is that the university has doubled down on their support for Mike Norvell, at least until the end of the year, according to the quote from FSU's athletic director, Michael Alford. They have decided to fully support Mike Norvell throughout the rest of the year, according to Michael Alford. And then we'll reassess things at the end of the year. Now, I've heard both sides of the argument as a plane decides to go overhead because, of course, once I start talking, planes start flying. I have heard both sides of the argument, and there are, there's valid points to, I guess, not firing him immediately. And there's also major questions of why keep him around. And we'll get into all of that and much more here tonight. But before we dig into it, unpack it, open the box, so to speak, all that stuff, hit my like button, please. Subscribe if you're new. Share the video. And hit that comment section so you can make this roll call that is going to come up here very shortly. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's do a quick roll call, and then we'll get into the conversation points. Pistino's in the building. Jay says, "What's up, Unc? What's going on with your B Savage, Caveman, Grand Champion? Know the rules, FSU Tony, Pharrell, Adangbe, B Gaines, Vontae in the building, Rob in the building, Michael in the building, Trav in the building, Williams in the building, KCD is in the building, and so much more. I'm assuming will eventually join the chat. And of course, as you join the chat, know the rules. I think I already shouted you out, but as you enter, please enter the chat so I can give you the proper recognition for joining me on this Tuesday evening, October 21st. Let's do this. Clean music lover, what's good with you? So Mike Norvell has been given a temporary, I guess, vote of confidence from the administration. However, it is hard to look at this football team. It's hard to hear the reports coming out after the football game in Stanford and say that he has a vote of confidence from anybody in that locker room Then you listen to the interviews, which I'll be honest with you, I only listened to some snippets. I did not listen to the whole. I don't care to listen to interviews of anybody anymore. But the coaches, and I would argue that Gus Malzahn started this whole thing, as throughout the weeks he has kind of routinely thrown the defense under the bus, and Tony White low key responded in a way that says he's throwing the offense under the bus. So it doesn't seem like the coaching staff gets along. It doesn't seem like the players respect the head coach, and that's based off reports that players mocked him after the football game in the locker room, mocked his whole response speech. Of course, everybody is aware of the incident that happened between Mike Norvell and Edwin Joseph during the game. And we're going to cover both sides of this. But I beg the initial question is, how do you keep a man around who's lost every last bit of respect in that locker room? How do you keep a man around that has lost his players? The players don't believe in him anymore. At least that's what optically it looks like. Doesn't look like they believe in what the head coach is preaching. How do you keep them around? What are we? We're in the end game right now, right? What that end game looks like, I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks. But if you're going to fire a coach mid-season, this was the time to do it. It's a bye week. No game this weekend for Florida State, thank God. So you don't have to waste your Saturday on this pathetic product. How do you justify keeping him around? Because you can't tell me, oh, you're keeping him around for recruiting. Because I don't know what you've essentially fired. It is, for all intents and purposes, well known that this is a lame duck, right? So the people that justify keeping him around, my question goes to you: what pitch is he? Oh well, we need people to recruit because we've been there, we've seen that when people stop recruiting, what happens to a program? What is Mike? First of all, when Mike Norvell was even winning, the recruiting was suspect at best. What message does the lame duck head coach have to give to a high school player right now? Are you hoping to keep your current class intact? Is that what that is? Okay, maybe that's the case. But again, with the knowledge being out there that this guy's done from almost every aspect, from the fans to the players, like there's no respect. No one believes in what he's selling anymore. You should have not believed it after 2-10, but we all have garnet and gold colored glasses, and we want to believe the best, and you have the right to do so. But after 2-10, the writing should have been on the wall, number one. Number two, after 2-10, you would have thought the administration would have thought to themselves, okay, this man just went 2-10. While we hope he turns it around, obviously, because we owe him a lot of money if we do have to fire him. While we hope he turns it around, we probably need to prepare for the high probability that this man is not going to turn it around, that 2-10, 3-6, and 5-7 is more so his identity, and now 3-4, which if you look at the remaining schedule, please show me a game on that schedule that FSU is going to win. He's probably stuck at 3 to 4 wins. He may beat a Wake Forest, and I'm not even guaranteed. There's no way I can say, oh, we're going to beat Wake Forest. What I can tell you is, are you going to go into Clemson and beat Clemson? I know Florida just fired Billy Napier. Is your hope that is you can be a interim head coach at the Florida Gators? Well, here's the problem with that. You couldn't be the intern head coach at Stanford, and Florida has 10 times the talent that Stanford has, and you couldn't beat that team. You're going to be NC State on a Friday evening. What game remaining on this schedule is FSU going to be looked at as a favorite? And I ain't talking about Vegas, because Vegas done had us favored, and I think every loss we've had, with the exception of Miami. So when it comes to Florida State, Vegas don't even know what to make of this clown show. So he's looking at a 3-4 win season now, missing another bowl game again. And the administration went into the season with no preparation. To me, at least, that's what it seems like. To me, it seems like they went into this season with no idea of what to do, in the high chance that he did this garbage again. Explain it to me, if at all possible. Explain it to me. Here come the dogs. Because, of course, once I start talking, that's when the dogs come out. They keep their dogs up all day. As soon as they, hear me talking, dogs come. So, to me, it's because of an administration that has no idea what they're doing. Obviously, a head coach who has no idea what they're doing. It's pretty bad. And while I wanted the man fired last year, I came into the season, I said 7-5, 8-4 at best. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. Hopefully you can beat like a Virginia Tech and maybe one other game to get bowl eligible. Hopefully. I'm simply flabbergasted at why you keep him around. Now, let's talk about maybe why you keep him around. Are you keeping him around to, as noted before, are you keeping him around because you want someone to continue to recruit the program, try to get players in here? Sounds good in theory. But again, what is he selling? And if the players know that he ain't going to be here, do you think FSU is going to have any commits from here until December? Just a serious question. FSU going to have any commits? Another reason why you would want to keep him around, I guess, is the money aspect. This point to me makes very little sense from the standpoint of, if you fire him now, I think it's like 58. If you fire him at the end of the season or after December or whatever the case may be, however that works out, it goes down to 53. So you're talking about roughly $5 to $6 million you're talking about saving. Bro, if you have the $50 million to fire him then, you have the $50 million to fire him now. That $6 million don't make a difference. What is that? Is that just to pay extra coordinator buyouts? Bro, if you have the money now, you have it then. That $6 million, you make that. You make that in TV revenue alone, I guess. I can't, though I understand some points of why you maybe want to keep him around. Maybe you got to get some more ducks in order. Alfred's job is, with the way he doubled down on Norvell, a lot of people are speculating Alfred's out the door too, and rightfully so. Is that one of the things that I would say that makes a little bit of sense to me is if we're talking about a major administration overhaul as well, that maybe is not why you fire Mike now. Because if you're going to get rid of Alfred too, and you're going to have somebody else, or you're going to put together a committee or whatever the case to make the next FSU football coach hire, you probably don't have that again. And while it makes sense in the macro, you still got to think to yourself, well, why hadn't they been prepared for this in the chance? But in the micro, you don't have all the ducks in order to maybe go full on and fire a coach. You also probably don't know who an intern would be. A lot of people are saying, well, just bring Odell to intern, or, Because I'll tell you right now, if you're not paying attention to all the things that Gus is saying, Gus will not be the intern head coach of this team if Mike Norvell is to get fired during the season. Won't happen. You listen to Gus Malzahn, he has strictly said, I am the offensive coordinator. I don't get into all that other stuff. Gus gives me the feels that he don't even really want to be here, let alone be the intern head coach of the Florida State Seminoles. You're probably not giving it to Tony White with the way the defense has performed. My two guesses, if there was an intern, would be Odell. That's Odell's bread and butter right there. You make him the intern head coach. Or Chris Thompson. So, again, they didn't prepare for this. And that's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me, is that they weren't prepared to make the move. So they say, we're just going to stick with it until after the season. We'll have more time, blase. To me, my humble opinion, and again, I'm just a light-skinned dude on YouTube. I don't know anything. To me, you make the move now, and you still have the remaining month of October, November, and December to still get your ducks in order. Because, again, you've got a head coach who's lost the team. These guys aren't going to go out there. Like, this has a chance to get super ugly. Super ugly. Because these kids don't want to play for this man. They don't believe in this man. That halftime huddle he does before going into a half, whew, this stuff is going to get nasty. It's going to get ugly. Like, I got some comments I need to get to, and I got a $20 super chat that I definitely got to highlight first for my man Know the Rules. Know the Rules. What's good with you? Thank you for the $20. There's no right now, not in this program, that understands the standard. There's no one right now, in this program that understands the standard. They preach it, but nah. Players, coaches, ADs, all butt cheeks. Shout out to Know the Rules, man. Won't get any arguments from me there.
Clickety clank, clickety clank. The money goes into my piggy bank.
I'm gonna scroll up, try to get to some more comments because I saw some comments that I wanna hit on. My man Jay, what's up, nephew? He says, "Polk, what if Mike goes on a Napier run out in bye week and wins? Are we cooked for the next year?" I don't see how. And I've heard this scenario. And is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? I don't believe so. But for all intents and purposes, if Mike finishes the season 8-4, he just goes on a tear. Stanford loss pissed him off, and I don't know. We get mad Mike Norvell, whatever that is. I don't even know what mad Mike Norvell is. All he does is look like he's about to cry on the sideline these days. Would that save his job, and then we keep him from next year? I don't see how. That would be the biggest cop-out in history. I don't see how. What does that mean? What does that mean for your program? To keep Mike Norvell, even if he won out. What does that mean? The inevitable is still the inevitable. He's still going to recruit the number 20-something class in the country this year. They're going to try to spend a bunch of money on transfer portal guys who aren't going to hit because they'll be accumulating. They'll be bringing in transfer guys for every position group. Gus looks like he's already out the door, so you might need a whole new head OC next year anyway. Like, what? Even if he wins out, you still got to make that move. I mean, we just saw Napier get fired after a loss. You still got to make that move. But I appreciate the comment, Jay. KCS says, everyone says how great a man Mike is. Can't stand those comments. No one's ever questioned Mike Norvell. First of all, none of us know the man. None of us on here. 90% of the fans don't know the man personally. The first to even say that. And I'm not saying he's not a great person. He should be a great person. Why would he not be? Like, I'm not. But people speak on him like they know him. But anyway, everyone says how great a man Mike Norvell is. What's stopping him from just admitting he's not the coach for this school and just quit? Well, he's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going to quit because he's not going to get. He's not going I wouldn't quit even if I sucked. I wouldn't quit because I'm not giving up $50 million. Like, you're gonna still pay me. Tell FSU they can keep their money. I bet he'd get another job if he's gonna get another job most likely regardless. Get another job regardless. My man Tyler says they did the worst thing they could have done. If you're not gonna fire him, just don't even put out a statement at that point. I don't understand the statement either. I don't understand why you insult the fans. I don't understand why you tell the fans that you're supporting this trash. I don't, to this day, and I've spoken on this a million times, I don't understand the loyalty that this man has earned as the FSU head football coach. Every bad record that you can accumulate as a head coach of really any football team, the only thing he hasn't done is have like a losing record against his rivals. I think he's like 500 against the rivals. So it's not like he's been whipping rivals' ass. And I think if you can, actually, I think if you put Clemson in that category, he does have a losing record against all the rivals combined. I don't know what the man's done to get this type of support. Don't understand it. Rob says, I honestly think it's a Band-Aid statement, and they're getting their plan together behind the scenes for the money to fire Mike and hire a new coach. He won't be here until the end of the season. JB, we were knocking out Stanford's players left and right during that game and still couldn't beat their scout team. Embarrassing. He should have been left on the tarmac. Say it again. Loke Wright, wouldn't mind to get a shot at Rhett after all the other coaching spots get filled. We'll talk about that. Where does FSU's job even rank? I have my own opinions. Vitus says, do you think when he's at his presser, the press will ask him real questions? What can this asshole possibly say? We're going to keep climbing. I'm so over him. Here's the thing, and I will give some grace to our beat in this instance. What are they supposed to ask him? That's another thing that Alfred, I don't think, considered when making the statement. Those individuals, as much as we might not like a 247, right? And there's individuals that work at 247 that I think do good work. The same thing at War Chant. Maybe as an entity, maybe we don't like War Chant. Maybe. Not saying we do or we don't. I'm just saying maybe. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But there's individuals on War Chant that I like their work. I like Jeff Cameron's work. I think Corey Clark is hilarious with his sarcasm. Like, there's people that I like their work. What are they supposed to ask this man? Hey, Mike, how you doing today? Is the team ready to play this? Like, what are they supposed to ask him? They can't go out there and say, well, Mike, do you think you should have been fired? Hey, Mike, how do you think recruiting is going to be affected now that you're been given this vote of confidence? What is Zach at 247 supposed to ask these recruits? That's his primary job, is he covers recruiting for the Seminoles. What is he supposed to ask an FSU player who's currently committed, other than, despite the on-field problems and the speculations around the coach, are you still fully committed to the Seminoles? And then what is that kid going to say? No, to hell with this, I'm out. No, he's going to give the same BS answer we always get, but we'll find out on December 3rd, early signing period, how that really goes, because we all know how that story plays out, because we've seen that for 6 years. What is the beat supposed to say? They have a job to do. What real questions do they ask? Those are the real questions that they're not going to ask, because they can't ask those questions. Well, they can, and then they can get kicked out of a presser, lose their access for the rest of the year until the next coach comes in. Alfred didn't think about any of this stuff, obviously, or they just didn't give a damn. Monday morning, Facebook and Twitter was going crazy about firing Martindale, so I guess that's why they had to address it. Pissed off fans. They knew what was coming. First of all, the conversation got started after Pitt. So again, this goes back to the clown administration that I said. After, if you think, because good teams lose games. Bama lost to FSU week 1. Still don't know how the hell they pulled that off. But Bama lost to FSU week 1, and Caleb DeBoer was getting flamed. Bama's done nothing but win and win impressively since. So good teams lose games. That Virginia game, you could have said, okay, that was a shootout, man. You just came up short at the end because Deuce Robinson couldn't initially catch the football. I think I even said, like, okay, that's one game. Don't let it affect you. Then you lose to Miami. Well, we can kind of look at that game, right? And then we can go, well, Miami's a all-around better football team. Granted, they just lost to Louisville, and watching that Louisville game pissed me off. Not that Miami's not a good team, but damn. Louisville could keep it competitive. You were down 28 to whatever you were at one point, and then you stormed back to try to make it look respectable. But everybody who watched that game knew you were outmanned and outcoached. And can't believe you're saying outcoached to a Mario Cristobal football team, but you were outmanned, outcoached, and all those other good things. Okay, that's Miami. At that time, Miami's number 2 or 3 team in the country. Got it. Then you lose to Pitt. At this point, it's a 3 straight L's. That's when the conversation started happening as fans. I don't understand why that conversation wasn't happening as an administration. Did you think losing to Stanford was impossible? Obviously not. Again, this clown administration, this acting like this came out of nowhere. Last year you had a bit of an excuse because you just came off that season where you got the snub and all that stuff. You could argue 2-10. 2-10 legitimately felt like it came out of nowhere. Even though, again, in hindsight, when you look at the entire picture, 2-10 kind of didn't come out of nowhere. But in that moment, 2-10 comes out of nowhere. You can have a little bit of understanding of why the administration was like, oh, we just hired this man to an extension. We just was on the verge of college football playoff spot. Should have got in. Okay, 2-10 is an anomaly. But there's no way you had to go into this year thinking that was not repeatable. Because he's obviously repeating the shit. 1 second. Mike Norvell did something no other FSU's coach has done. He made me completely apathetic. He made me apathetic a while ago, but I hear you. When Willie lost, I was pissed. Now I don't care. Facts. Hell, I almost wanted us to lose to Stanford, so we'd fire the guy. And then they would still decided that they're not going to fire the guy. So again, I go to the question. What good is it to keep him around? It'd be one thing if the players had a vote of confidence, like whether or not we want them fired. Okay, cool. Fans are gonna fans. Fans short for fanatic. We know how that rocks. Fans are either gonna be super up or super low because that's just how fans are. Either glass is half full or glass is half empty. As a fan, we all know what side that we fall on, which is either you are entirely optimistic or you're whatever. But normally in these situations, players will give a vote of confidence. We still believe in the guy. You know what I listened to today? I listened to 247 on their pod. Zach Bolstein reported, again, so this ain't coming from me. I'm not just making this shit up. Zach reported that he talked to an FSU player in that locker room that obviously will remain anonymous. And that he told him that Mike Norvell had a meeting, I believe on Monday, addressing the team, saying that he's the coach for the rest of the year. And the players You know how they reacted? See my face right now? That's how they reacted. See, as I look into this camera, that was the reaction from the players. They didn't clap, they didn't cheer, they didn't go. They were apathetic, like Tyler said. They don't care. Your players don't care if you're there or gone. What are we doing? What are we doing? See that damn bug flying around? There he is. He's back. I got him. But what are we doing? What are we doing? Please hit the like button for me, please. You want to know another damning piece of evidence against Mike Norvell? Former players are now coming out speaking against the philosophy that so many people have supported. Kentron Portier. And I know it's easy to dismiss when certain players say things, because I remember when Willie Taggart, I remember when Willie Taggart's reign came to an end, and Keith Gavin came out, and he said some things against the way Taggart ran the program. And the first thing people did, and the same thing they're doing here to Kentron Portier, is they dismissed what he had to say because you weren't good, or you weren't consistent, or you weren't a great player to be having these opinions. And that's the same thing against Kentron. And so I'm going to say two things can be true. In the face of Kentron Portier and what he has said on Twitter, if you're just making it about Kentron Portier, he's absolutely 100% wrong. So let's backtrack a little bit. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, let me see if I can find it so I can say what he said verbatim. And then we'll go, because I want to be accurate when I say this. Kentron. Actually, I think I quoted it, so I can just look it up like that. Kentron. This is what Kentron said on Twitter, and he was replying to a Greedy Vance. Actually, let's take it all the way back to what Greedy Vance initially. Greedy Vance, who had transferred to a few schools, and as we know, transferred, I believe, from Louisville to Florida State. The Greedy Vance says, speaking of this season, this is what happens when you have 50 new players on the roster and lose 30 the year prior to the portal, bringing in guys, giving them opportunity and money than people who essentially were already in the program. This is what he said. Now, before we go into Portier, let's undress what he's saying. There is, in my opinion, a lot of merit to what him and Kentron, and we'll talk about Kentron here in a second, what they're saying. Now, I'll say this. A head coach's job is to bring in players that replace the previous players, right? It's always to upgrade the team. So the head coach's job is always to either replace you or bring in somebody who threatens you enough to where you upgrade your talent. So that's true. But what Greedy's speaking to is something that we have spoken about on here in the way Mike Norvell's transfer portal philosophy has worked. The problem isn't that he uses the portal. The problem all stems from the fact that nobody he recruits seems good enough. Why we're recruiting him then comes into question. Your talent evaluation must really suck. Your talent development must really suck, or maybe it's a combination of the two. Most likely, I think that's what it is, the combination of the two. So what he's simply speaking of, let's talk about Joshua Farmer. Do you remember the Joshua Farmer infamous holdout? At the time, no one liked it, including myself. But again, in hindsight, you understand why Farmer, Patrick Payton, and other guys threatened to transfer after what I believe was the 2022 season or 23 season, one of those seasons. But you understand why. It's because those guys recruited here, did everything that was asked of them, attended every practice, learned the playbook, had to go through everything only for you to bring in Braden Fisk and a bunch of other transfer for, and I'm not knocking guys like Braden Fisk. Love them to death. The point is, you bring in guys and immediately pay them X amount of dollars and ignore the guys who have stuck through the fire. Essentially, you bring it in the Keon Coleman's, and you're bringing in these mercenaries, these 1-year rentals, and you're paying them X amount of dollars and saying they deserve this money, while also telling the players that have, and I'm not even talking about the trash players, I'm talking about players like a Joshua Farmer, who's an NFL football player, like a Pat Payton, who at the time, everybody would have said, okay, Patrick Payton, he's on the come up. Regardless of where he finished his career, at the time when he was asking for the money, this is how it was playing out. You're telling those guys you're not worth a raise, right? We always talked about the NIL and how that could create the dissension in the locker room. You're paying 1 year to 2 year rentals, all this money, and ignoring the guys who have stuck with it throughout the years. To Kentron's point, he says, I'm with you on that, brother, who's probably the greedy Vance, saying this for the past year or so. Where's the loyalty to those that committed and been there for you? He's talking to Mike Norvell. Transfers don't owe you nothing, but you give them the world. That's crazy. Basically just what I just said. And the ones that were busting their ass just get pushed to the back. That is what happened to the 24 team in a nutshell. That is exactly what happened to the 2014. That's what's been happening to Mike Norvell this entire time. He was lucky enough for a couple years to really hit. That time is dead and gone. Now, undressing what Kentron's saying. Individually, Kentron's dead wrong because he's insinuating, Kentron, that he didn't get an opportunity. We would all disagree on that. Kentron was out there too much. I've spoken about that for 3 or 4 years. Kentron Portier was out there too much. He wasn't very good. He wasn't consistent. He had a flashy catch every now and then, but he wasn't consistent or reliable. And he was given plenty of opportunities. Him and that damn Darian Williamson was given too many opportunities, one would argue. So individually speaking, just to Kentron, you're wrong. But as an entire organization, as an entire football team, I think he's hit the nail right on the head. There are why can't any of FSU's high school recruits crack a rotation consistently? We've talked for years, the one position group we seem to recruit decently is that DB room, and yet every year we go and get more transfer DBs. We literally this year and last year, by the way, you took transfer portal players at every position group. Quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, O-line, stop me when I'm lying, D-line, linebackers, DBs. How is it that every position group has to be addressed by transfer portal players? And not even for depth purposes. Those guys are being asked to start immediately because your recruiting sucks, your development sucks, and your eval suck. That's why. So now he has former players bashing his philosophy. What are we doing? That will be the consistent question I continue to ask on this live stream. Someone explain to me, what are we doing? When the former players, and Mike Norvell, he did not recruit Greedy, but he recruited Kentron out of high school. And to Mike Norvell's credit, gave Kentron plenty of opportunity to be a player. Again, he just wasn't that good. So individually, I think Kentron's dead wrong. But again, from a macro view, from the entire program view, why is there no leadership in the locker room? Who are the leaders? Your leaders are guys who don't. Your leaders are guys who don't even give a damn about the garnet and gold. Your leaders don't really care about the logo in here in the back. I don't know if y'all can even see it. But your leaders don't care about that. No, they're 1 year rentals coming to make their money. So you talk about there's no on-field accountability. Well, why is that? Who have you matured up through the ranks to be a leader? You ain't got one. You ain't got one. It's all come to a nasty head. Pus-filled pimple on this FSU Seminole head is what it is. Right here on the nose, too. So he can't even hide it if he wanted to. And as with all coaches, when they reach their limit, the ugly starts to come out. There's no worse indictment on a coach than to have current or former players question what you're doing publicly. What are we doing? What are we doing? Let's get to the comment section. What is y'all thoughts on Kentron and Greedy Vance's comments? Jay says Cam Davis posted on IG that I'm out of here. Did he really? I don't follow Cam Davis, but if he did, Portier straight up made it sound like he didn't give effort because he wasn't paid, like the transfers that came in. That's a way to take it. I think he gave effort. I just don't think he was that good. Portier got plenty of opportunities, but I just take what he's saying is it's not that he didn't give effort. It's that the guys that were giving so much effort to prove themselves and, again, doing everything you asked them to do, the tour duties. There's a lot of transfer portal players who got to skip tour duties because they didn't transfer till after. All of that stuff that the homegrown guys have to do, those transfer portal players weren't asked to do the same things. And they were giving an exuberant amount of money. That's what I took from what Kentron said. KCS, in my opinion, Norvell was effed the moment Marvin Wilson said, I remember Marvin Wilson's initial, that COVID, and I remember that. And I agree with you. I didn't like how Wilson handled it either, but there you go. Polk, that's exactly why Tony White's evaluation of the defense this year had walk-on players better. Exactly. And I know everybody hates Tony White. They loved him after week one, and everybody hates Tony White now. I'm not one of those people that hate Tony White. I understand that the man wasn't given a lot to work with. When that initial depth chart came out, y'all remember I did a live stream on that depth chart and laughed at it. And people told me, well, wait and see. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. There's a reason why Donnie Hibbert was on the damn depth chart. Tony White evaluated that, said, I thought this was Florida State. What have I walked into? 2 walk-ons are better than a lot of my scholarship players. I would say Mike was just chasing the star rankings. He could attain to keep fans happy. If he had his way, he'd get like 5 high school guys. The rest would be portal. We'll talk about this in a minute, Vontae, about what are players that I would like to keep this offseason. Who should FSU invest money in as far as current players? But we'll get to that. But I just want to continue to get back to this obvious lack of trust that Mike Norvell, from the players. For some reason, the fans trust Mike Norvell way a lot more than the players do. And granted, a lot of fans have finally turned the corner. Welcome to the party. Drinks are in the back, by the way, of the Fire Mike Norvell train. I'm glad to have you. But there are still those that are like holding on. I'm still seeing guys say ridiculous things of he's a great guy, give him a chance. He's still trying to clean up Willie's mess. Get the hell out of here. It's been 6 years since Willie. If we don't stop bringing up that name, we never will. Please stop bringing up that name. The 2025 roster, it has nothing to do with Willie Taggart. Stop it. absolutely stop it. We have to stop the foolishness. This man is trash. I had hopes after 2 winning seasons. I thought he had turned the corner. 2024 punched me right in the nuts. I knew there was no coming back from 2-10. I knew it. I said it all off season. But again, as the optimistic fan that I try to be sometimes, at the beginning of the year, I gave him a chance. But I flat out came out here and told you guys that Bama game was irrelevant. I told you that game meant nothing. Go back and watch. Quote me on it. Clip it. Y'all know I'm not lying to you. I told you the Bama game meant nothing. And everybody told me, nah, if they beat Bama, then they are set. I said the Bama game don't matter if you go out there and you lose to Pitt right before Miami and you drop the games that you're not. And that's exactly what they did. And yeah, I'm pointing my finger because it's not about I told you so's, but damn it, I told you so. The Bama game was irrelevant. And here we are. The Bama game is irrelevant as it could ever have been. That Bama game means nothing right now. Bama is going to make the playoffs. Bama might win the SEC. Bama might be the best team in the nation. Them in Ohio State. The Bama game is irrelevant because the man who preaches response can't respond to shit and has a track record of not being able to respond to nothing. Once he gets losing, he stays losing. He don't know how to respond. I don't know why that's his moniker. I don't get it. I don't get it. Tyler says the only player sticking up for Norvell is JT. And look, man, I've made a case that JT may be the 4th or 5th best quarterback in FSU history. Like I've made that case. And I think what's happening with Mike Norvell only solidifies that case. But Jordan Travis is so off base with his defensive Norvell, and I understand why he's sticking up for the guy who gave him a chance and da-da-da-da-da, even though I think if Jordan really sat back and looked at it, he'd go, did this man really believe in me? Because he sure didn't believe in me year 1 or year 2. But I can understand why Jordan Travis is sticking up for him. Like I get it. Here's the problem. He's so off base with his take that it negates any kind of loyalty credit that we want to give him for sticking up for Norvell. Jordan Travis said, and I quote, if you would have paid $10 million to Jeremiah Smith, you could have got him. Damn it, if you pay $10 million to any recruit, for one, you could have got him. For two, how many times do we have to say that FSU, and this might segue into another conversation, but I want to get the comments first, has a top 15 to 10 NIL budget. They are paying players. And you don't have to take my word for it. Go listen to people in the business that know. Whether that's a Bud Elliott, he'll tell you how prominent FSU's NIL business is. Shout out to Ingram because he's done amazing work with the Battle's End. That goes to the even more damning evidence that this man has a ton of support. Have y'all seen the pictures of the new athletic facility? Beautiful. And they still haven't done a full reveal. I've just seen pictures here and there, probably the same pictures y'all have seen. What I've seen looks incredible. We all know the new stadium renovations were incredible. This man has had everything Jimbo Fisher ever asked for. They gave it to this man. And this is the product he's put on the field. And got people like Jordan Travis saying, give him more money. People like D-Jack, number 5, linebacker, give him more money. I get it, D-Jack. You were pissed off at Willie Taggart. You blame him and say he didn't coach you right, and that's why you didn't have the career you had. Probably a lot of valid points there. I can't speak on it. I wasn't there. I was in the locker room. You made it very clear that Willie Taggart sucked as a coach, and Raymond Woody was probably even worse. D-Jack's words, not mine. But y'all keep talking about give the man more money. To do what? Get more DJ Uyunglele's? Get more Thomas Castellanos? To do what exactly? Like we just didn't pay a arm and a leg to flip Chroma from Georgia. So, but we're not spending money, but you damn sure flip Chroma from Georgia. And it's very well known that FSU paid him a grip for it, but give him more money. You can argue that the money needs to be invested in better areas. I'd 100% agree with you on that. And whether that's an administration thing or a Mike Norvell thing or a combination of both, we can have that conversation all day. But to give a loser more tools to lose with is ridiculous. What's up, Briley? Good to see you in here. Briley says, sad days in Tallahassee. Seems like ADME either didn't make contingency plans for having to part ways with Mike, or the big money boosters aren't willing to commit those funds to another Alford hire. I always thought that catchphrase of respond was stupid. How about whoop there? Right. How about go out there and win a game? Somebody asked me in my Discord, if you're not in the Discord, you might want to be in the Discord. We have a good time in the Discord. Somebody asked me in the Discord, we went from do something to the climb, respond. What's the new coach's catchphrase going to be? You know what I said the catchphrase should be? Win football games. I don't need some fancy climb. I don't need to do something. I don't need to play like a champion. I don't need any of that bull. The catchphrase should be win football games. Win football games. That's it. 3 words. Win football games. That should be the new catchphrase. Straight coaching. FSU is 7th in the country in NIL spending. The player evaluation is trash. Game prep is trash. Yet a lot of the fans want the answer to be more spending. Thank you. Know the rules. What's happening, Mr. H? Appreciate you for coming in here and kicking it. King Cook says, Norvell's got to go. It's time. They rushed Bobby out. They need to rush Norvell out. Mr. H says, nobody values D-Jack's opinion. He really thought that he was the dude when he played. He was straight up ass juice when he played. No Little Richard. You said it, not me. Vance and Portier comments are valid. Sawchuck is not it. Chroma and Holmes should get more playing time. TC got hurt because Mike Norvell is playing him against Kent State up by more than 40. And the Dangbe says the new football facility needs a large illuminated sign with letters that says Florida State or Seminoles on the roof facing the Pensacola Street Junction. Okay. I like it. I love it. I don't love this product, but I love it. So everybody's talking about players that we need to try to keep. How can I join the Discord? Let me give you a link. I will post a link to the Discord in the chat. Again, we have a good time in there. We joke and all that good stuff. Let me see. Let me show you how. I always have a problem with actually finding the link. So if anybody in the Discord wants to drop the link in the chat, please do. But I'm trying. Let me see if I can find it. That's not what I'm looking for. Get out of here. Oh, there we go. Create invite. Bam. Copy. Here we go. Here's the Discord. Again, come in there. Kick it with your boys, man. We be talking about a lot of stuff. We just have fun in there. And like I said, we have fun. We joke. We talk about all kind of stuff in the chat. Yo, dog. F this team. I'm out on the football, but I'll be here listening to your stuff. I appreciate it. Indiana, Georgia Tech, Vandy are better than FSU, is where Mike has us. Clark Lee doesn't have a moniker. They just play ball. That's the next slogan of the next coach should be just win. What I say? Just win football games? No, it's 3 words. Win football games. Yeah. Win football games. Oh, I see all y'all joining the Discord now. I'm getting a bunch of alerts. Thank you. Thank you for joining the Discord. After Mike would win one of these SEC season openers, he'd always come out the presser and say, I told the team the game would come down to one play. How about tell the team to blow their ass out? Thank KCS for the $19.99 $20 chat. He says, look at this situation, the same as 2024. We were owed answers and got none. We should all be yelling for Alfred to be fired the same amount. Yes, I agree. Alfred needs to be gone too, especially with the doubling down on this. Alfred should be out of the picture. But thank you, KCS, for the $19.99. I appreciate the love.
Yeah, more money. Yeah, more money. Yeah.
What's up, Edwin? So, again, let's segue to what are some players that FSU should. Granted, we all assume Mike Norvell will be fired eventually. Who should they invest in? What are some players that Mike Norvell should invest in what's some players that the university, I guess, should invest in, the battle's in, that you want to, current players that you want to keep on the roster moving forward for the next coach? I'll be honest with you. When it comes, we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. I'll be honest, man. I believe the pickings are very slim. The only position group on the offense that I like is really the receiving group. Obviously, I think Danzy is a guy you want to keep. I think Danzy has the potential to be one of, if not the best players in college football. I think he's shown that, right? I think he's shown that. So to me, Danzy is a guy, and I know he's a Tallahassee native, so I don't know how real it is that he would even leave, but anything's possible. Danzy's the first guy. I would also, sticking with receivers, look at Deuce Robinson. I know Deuce Robinson has another year of eligibility, which means you don't have to invest a lot in him. You get him for that 1 year rental, essentially. But the new coach is going to need weapons, and those two complement each other. You got big-time possession receiver who actually has some speed also in Deuce, and then you got the Blazer and Danzy. I would keep both of those guys in that receiving core. Boggs, I would keep him. The problem I have, or the problem I think we will run into with Boggs, is we only have Boggs because we got Gus Malzahn as the OC. Gus will not be the offensive coordinator next year. I don't know how that plays out for Boggs. I don't know if he sticks with it or decides to go elsewhere with getting rid of his offensive coordinator and wide receiver coach at that. So my two major offensive priorities, at least out of the receiving room, are Deuce and Danzy. Quarterback, that whole quarterback room needs to be retooled. And that's not even a knock on Sperry. Sperry might have some talent going forward. I saw some things in the Stanford game. And this isn't the end-all, be-all when it comes to quarterbacks. I don't know if Boggs had, excuse me, I'm looking at comments while I'm reading. I don't know if Sperry has the arm. A couple of those deep throws in that Stanford game, I was like, ugh. So there's that. So, I guess you would want to keep Sperry around just to have a young quarterback on, you got to have something in that quarterback room, but I wouldn't, I don't know how that's going to look. Cassiano should not be your quarterback next year, just point blank, period. I don't think anybody would dispute that. Brock Glenn probably is gone. Again, it's Sperry and no one else. That running back room. Holmes is gone. Rodell's gone. I think Sawchuk actually has another year. I don't know if Sawchuk's a guy, and I actually like Sawchuk, but I don't know if Sawchuk's a guy that you're going to invest any money in to keep him, right? You could probably find another Galvin Sawchuk somewhere. Chroma's the interesting one. For me, it'd be how much, and I don't know how that deal was kind of made out for Chroma, because these NIL deals are kind of being retooled or being done in a different way. And I would like to keep Chroma, but I'll say this, and this might not be a popular opinion. Chroma is not a guy that I beg for. I said it when we got him, and I was saying it all off season, and I know people didn't like what I was saying. I think Chroma's a good player. He's not Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Adrian Peterson. He's not one of these running backs that I think can be program changers or I don't believe that. If Chroma wants to stay, awesome. But if Chroma wants to go, or you need to pay him X amount of dollars to stay, I don't know if I'm investing that much in a Usman Chroma personally. And that doesn't mean that Chroma won't be a good or great player. I think Chroma's a good player, but I've said it from the jump, he wasn't a difference maker. At least not now. Maybe he grows into that. That's very possible. But those players that I kind of just named, they were instant impact difference makers from the jump. It didn't take them 2 or 3 years to get their groove. And some of that's not Chroma's fault. And I'm not saying all of it is. I'm just talking about when you're allocating money to rebuilding this roster, is Chroma a priority? Maybe, maybe not. If it was me, I probably would look at Chroma with a question mark. Pending some of the other guys that we could get or have to make a decision on keeping, I don't think Chroma would be at the top of my list. Just me. Damn sure ain't Cam Davis. I like Singleton. But again, if I ain't keeping Chroma, then I ain't keeping Singleton, because Singleton ain't no Chroma. Singleton's kind of a one-trick pony. I think Randy Pittman has another year. I would like to keep Pittman, but again, that guy came over with Gus Malzahn. He probably won't be here next year either. Speaking of Pittman, you talk about the tight end room. And then Landon Thomas, good piece. Again, are you pumping money into that tight end position? You could probably find another Landon Thomas, man. And then the offensive line. Pretty much all the starters are gone. So you really have to figure, well, what's some of the young players you would invest in on the offensive line? And then we'll move to the defense. With the O-line, and a wide receiver that I did forget, I would like to keep LaWayne McCoy. I think LaWayne McCoy has a high ceiling. The only problem with LaWayne McCoy is he was a big Miami flirt. But I believe Miami wanted him as a DB. They didn't want him as a receiver, if I remember correctly. So I don't even know if that opportunity would still be there for him. But if I could, I would keep LaWayne McCoy too. On the O-line, again, all the starters are gone. So you don't even have to worry about debating them. So what young players do you keep on that O-line? The first name that comes to mind for me is Sandman. I know it's a center and people don't glorify the center. But when I looked at Sandman, when I look at him, and I look at his potential, and I know it's just a center, that's probably the first player on that young offensive line that I'm saying I want to keep you, because you have, in my opinion, All-American built, or at least all ACC built all over you. It's written all over you. Sandman Thompson. I would like to keep Jonathan Daniels. From a body and frame perspective, looks the part. He looks the part. It would be hard for me to just throw Lucas Simmons away. I know he hasn't performed. He's been here, 3 years? It's hard for me to throw 6'8" away, right? It's hard for me to throw that away. Can I give some hope that we can get them together? Probably. Outside of those three, do you want to keep maybe a couple of the freshmen? Sure. I think I can't even think of the guy's name, but he's from Mississippi. Can't even think of his name. You probably want to Mario Nash. Probably want to keep him around. Like if I'm FSU and I'm rebuilding for next year, I'm probably pumping most of my money into that young offensive line. Guys that haven't really been tainted with the bad development that has happened over the last 6 years. I would try to keep Sandman, Daniels. Again, it's hard for me to throw Lucas Simmons away. And I get it. I would get if people were like, give up on that experiment. 6'8", 305, whatever, 310. That don't grow on trees. So I'd give that a chance. Mario Nash, definitely. And that's really it. I mean, Andre Otto, do you really want to keep Andre Otto? I don't know. That seems to me like one of those Atkins pulls that just ain't going to pan out. Could be wrong there, but I don't know about Andre Otto. FSU did get a couple transfer. I think both of them are freshmen. One was from Rutgers. One was from – I can't remember where the other one was from. They got two freshmen out of the portal. One from Rutgers, and I can't remember where the other one's from. I think one's from South Carolina. I think one's from Rutgers and one's from South Carolina. Maybe and they're big boys. They're like 6'5", 6'6", 300 plus. So they're big boys too that you might want to invest into. When it comes to the offense, I'd get a few of my skill position guys set, and then I would really Vandy. Vandy. Good catch. Daily chop. And I'd really invest in my young offensive line. That's what I would invest in. That quarterback room can go. Majority of those running backs can go. Again, Chroma's on the list, but I got to see if I can build my trenches. And then I think Danzy and Deuce and Lewayne probably. And again, I would keep Boggs. You probably would have to make a decision between Boggs and Lewayne. Again, I think Boggs is only here because of Gus. So we'll see how that plays out. But I would invest a lot of money in those young offensive line. Those are the guys that I would want to keep around. Talk about building the trenches. There's sort of the foundation. And some of those young offensive linemen are talented or have the potential to be. Let's try to build that. Because frankly, there's no senior. What veteran offensive linemen? You don't have any because they're all transfer portal guys on 1-year rentals. Let's move to the defense. And the defense, to me, is a lot more bare bones. Because outside of the Desir twins, honestly, when it comes to the defense, you want to keep all the freshmen. You probably want to keep Tylen Lee, LeJesse Harold, the twins. And that's about it. Seriously. And I guess a few DBs. Arnaud, Williams. Maybe you still hope for Lester to ever be able to do something. And Kai Bates. Some of those guys. But again, if we're just going with the trenches, that's my priority. LeJesse Harold, Tylen Lee, and the twins, and Kevin Wynn. Those are really my only real priorities when it comes to the defense. DBs, dime a dozen. Is there a DB on FSU's roster right now that you would consider special? That you would say, Rawls is a good one. I like Rawls. That's a good one, Jay. And Rawls has played, Rawls has earned. Lyons? No. I could care less about a Daniel Lyons. I could care less about a KJ Sampson. Granted, Sampson's a little kind of a young player. You could probably keep him for depth purposes. I mean, there's some serious conversations to have. And maybe, again, you want to build the trenches, I'm all for it. So maybe you want to keep a KJ around. I feel like Lyons has been here too long to kind of play the way that he plays. There's not a linebacker on that roster that I give a damn about. Not one. I'm glad to hear that Pritchard is doing well. He probably had the most promise of the young ones, and I'm glad to see that he's awake. If you don't know, Pritchard's awake, doing well. God bless Pritchard. I'm glad to see he's doing well. Again, football is not his priority. Uh, but that would have been the only linebacker that I'm like, okay, maybe you want to keep him around. But outside of that, there ain't a linebacker on the roster that I care about. I like some young the DB potential, but again, we're DBU, right? Probably can replace that. So when you look at this roster, the point with this whole conversation kind of comes like when you look at the roster, that new head coach doesn't have a lot of pieces to work with. He's got some. He's got some. But he ain't got a lot. And so they're going to have to prioritize one, who wants to be here, and who wants to be here for, because that's what's going to matter. That's one of the things that's going to matter when you get the new head coaches. Who wants to be a Seminole? Who's here to be a Seminole and who came for the NIL check? They're going to be able to figure that out, I think, fairly quickly. So who wants to be here? Because that'll set the tone. Those are your future locker room leaders. And then who has the potential to actually be a good football player? You know? Jay says, Alfred's not firing this man. Mike's getting fired. He might not be getting fired this week like some of us hope, but there's no way. Yes, I'm good with Earl. I'll keep Earl. From a veteran perspective, I don't think you're wrong, Grand Champion. Earl has some very bad habits. That is my problem. Where Earl Little plays hard, but he has some very bad habits that I think are going to be very hard to break. And it might just need to be a situation where the new regime won't really want to put up with an Edwin and Earl. Some of those DBs have some hot-headedness to them. Again, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of talent for the new guy to work with. Now that can be a blessing. That's going to be a curse for him, but that could also be a blessing too, because you can kind of clean house and hopefully, whoever that person is, get his guys and whatever the case. I think he prioritized all the young players on offensive line and defensive line. That would be my game plan going into the offseason for the new regime. I'm prioritizing the young guys because let's be honest, there ain't a lot of veterans that's worth a damn on this team. It's unfortunate to say that. First of all, there's not a lot of veterans that have any retainability. Your veteran on offense will most likely be Deuce. That's the guy, and I would bring Deuce back if I can. I would definitely bring that back. On defense, Rawls would probably be your veteran. I would bring him back if I can. But those trenches are going to be built by second-year young players, redshirt freshmen and true sophomores. Let me get to some comments, and then we'll move on to the next topic of discussion, and that is, who should FSU look at? What are some coaching candidates that you guys think FSU should be looking at to be the next head football coach at Florida State? But I want to get to comments. I see the chat moving, so I do want to see what y'all opinions are. Chroma definitely stays. He's one of the few players that I can see each game improve with Dancy, and that's fair. Plus, he's a true freshman, which is also fair. You still got to remember that. I'm not, to be clear, I was not saying that Chroma wasn't a good player, and I wasn't saying that Chroma isn't going to be a good, like I wasn't saying any of that. I think Chroma has a lot of potential. I'm just kind of giving you what my focus would be as someone who's trying to build a football team. And that I don't think he's that doesn't mean that he can't be a good player. I don't know if Chroma's a difference maker. Granted, you can say, well, none of those offensive linemen are difference makers. Well, let me get my trenches set first, and then I can make a running back. Right? I can make a running back. Now, there's some running backs that you can't make because they just got it. And I don't know if Chroma's in that category of just young stud that you say that's a dude that you can't keep off the field. And I named a few of them, right? I don't put Chroma in the LaDainian Thomason category of, guys that you just knew when they came in were like football player. Like, and I'm not saying he's not a football player. He's just not on my high priority. But I hear you. If he wants to stay, you figure out a way to keep him. So I don't disagree with you there. Panama says, I know Jalen Luke is probably kicking himself for transferring out of Indiana, especially with the success they've had the past 2 seasons. Roster's definitely going to look, it's definitely going to look drastically different. Randy will continue to haunt us for a few years. That sucks. And for real, can we get a traditional special teams coach? Yeah, JP should have been fired with the rest of those guys. Nobody taking the field gives a flying F about Mike Norvell. If they win another game this year, I'd be shocked and astonished. Daly says a 2-year rebuild, year 3 should see results. He's talking about the new coach. So what I will say to that, and this is my opinion, I don't believe personally in today's modern era, especially depending on who this new coach is and what he can show. And I get the state of the program in a sense. And I don't like to compare everybody to Signetti or some other guys that have had instant success. And, because we still got to see, can these guys sustain it? I just don't know if it takes, 3-4 years to have immediate results with the NIL. Like if this new coach can get in here, evaluate talent better, and, really put something together with the resources that he has at his disposal. I don't know, man. Maybe that's just the optimism in me thinking that a new coach could turn it around maybe in a shorter time frame. In years past, conventional college football, or should I say traditional college football, it was a 3-4 year rebuild. The new coach had to get in here, struggle the first couple years. By year 3, you should see the upswing, and by year 4, it should be kicking on all cylinders, or at least by year 4, what kind of coach you have at that point. But with the new era, the transfer portal, and the way things work, it might not. And again, depending on who you hire, it could be a quicker turnaround than maybe some of us think. I got a good question. What are some QBs you wish we could bring in if they were to hit the portal? I can't think of one off the top of my head. You'd have to throw some names out there because most of the QBs that you would name are probably NFL bound. I can't think of a good young quarterback that I can think off the top of my head that you would go, go target that guy. So you got to give me some names, Grand Champion. For Freeman, Drinkowitz. I like the Drinkowitz. Freeman's not leaving Notre Dame unless it's for Ohio State or probably the NFL. Elko's not leaving Texas A&M for Florida State. You can cancel Christmas on that. I love what Dilly's doing at Arizona State. He is not a fit for Florida State. It works at Arizona State. No. I'm a no-go on Kenny Dilly or the Bama OC. We'll talk about it. I look at it like this. The boosters trust their AD to make the decisions while they supply the necessary resources to win. And Mike is doing nothing but catching L's. Mike is cooked. God damn planes. You can't miss this go-around. Go out, get a guy that has proved himself at the P4. We're about to talk about that. Whether we steal him from another program or it's Franklin, Freeman would definitely – I don't believe he would leave Notre Dame. I personally don't believe that. Not for Florida State. I know I think Ohio State's his dream job. From my understanding, I think Florida, by reports, I believe. I can't even verify those reports because Twitter is full of a bunch of fake accounts. So I only glanced at it. But if it was accurate, Florida reached out to Freeman and they were denied, which I don't blame Florida for reaching out. JKS from Cal, Kellen Moore from the pros, dealing with the ASU, that's his dream job. So let's talk about it. Coaches that we think FSU should give a chance. I'm going to get this name out of the way because last live stream, not the halftime reaction, but the one I did about firing Mike Norvell after the Pitt game, I said I did not believe in Alex Golish, whatever, that it felt too much like another Mike Norvell to me. Well, I've been kind of talked into some different things. Done his research, done my research, kind of talked to some people on this one. He would not be at the top of my board. However, Golish is not a typical G5 coach. I know a lot of people says they don't go G5. Look, it's not about whether you're coaching at G5 or not. It's more about what is your experience at big time programs. Golish has experience at big time programs, or at least Tennessee. The man played. He's played at Ohio State. He has a vibe, right, of how a big time program should probably be ran. Now, you can question: do you want his offense? A lot of people aren't really a fan of his offense. Though when he was at Tennessee, that's when Tennessee's offense, I think, was at its best. He's running roughshod right now in the American. So there's that. I think he's an option. I don't believe he's my number one option, but I'm talking myself more into that. The man's coaching in Tampa, Florida. He's making those Florida State ties. I would not be pissed off if they went that route. I just don't think you make him the priority. So that's kind of the first name I want to get out there because I kind of want to get that name out the way. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, Alex Golish, that's the USF head football coach. I think that is an interesting candidate, whether you believe it or not. I'm going to stay in the G5 for a little bit. The Tulane head coach. This is a guy that I actually think Florida's going to go after heavy. If they don't get Lane Kiffin, which I'm not so sure Lane's going to go to Florida, but Florida's going to spin the tires. I think Florida might end up with the Tulane head coach. So that's a person that you could also look at. As when I'm just strictly speaking of G5 guys. Sumlin is who I'm talking about. Matter of fact, now let's talk about Sumlin real quick, because let's go over his resume. See, the problem with Mike Norvell, and I said this when he was hired, the man's experience was Tulsa and Arizona State. Let's be honest, man. The man had no business even being a head coach at Florida State. Summerall, not Sumlin, I'm sorry. John Summerall is who I meant. And I low-key like this guy. Again, I think Florida's going to go after him. But you look at his record. 12-2 at Troy. 11-2 at Troy. He goes to Tulane. 9-5. And now he's 6-1. He's coached at Kentucky, San Diego. He coached at Ole Miss. Obviously, head coach for the Troy Trojans. Interesting candidate again. Again, Kentucky, San Diego, Tulane, Troy, Ole Miss, Kentucky. So he's coached under Stoops He is a defensive coach. Y'all kind of know my philosophy. I would like for Florida State to go after a defensive coach. Am I? Hold on, my camera went out here for a second. God dog it. Okay, I'm back. So I don't know if y'all heard all that. But you got a guy who's coached under Mark Stoops. He's coached at Ole Miss. So he's got SEC experience. And of course, he's been a head coach and has had a winning record. Summerall is a valid option as well. I think Florida's going to spin tires on him, but we'll see. Daily Chop says Clark Leia. Let's look him up. Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm educated on all coaches around the country. Because I'm not. But it might as well be time to get educated because FSU is going to need a new head football coach. And that's the Vanderbilt head coach. I like him too. You got to love what he's doing at a place like Vanderbilt. He's only 43. He's doing it in the SEC at Vanderbilt. Now, here's the caveat or the dilemma that I have. This is another defensive coach, by the way. How much of this is Diego Pavia? Now, you got to give the man credit because he's the one who brought Diego Pavia into his program. But how much of it is that he just has this quarterback that is electric, right? Can he find that guy again at a place like Florida State? I like Clark Leia. I like what he's doing at Vanderbilt. He's been a linebacker coach at Wake Forest and Notre Dame. He was He was the DC at Notre Dame. He's been the linebacker coach at Syracuse. So that's big college football experience, specifically Notre Dame. Maybe not so much Wake Forest and Syracuse. He's also been linebacker coach at UCLA. That was back in 2010. So UCLA probably a better program back then than they are now. Good option. Sometimes when it comes to some of these coaches, you go, well, what is the record? And he's been at Vandy since 2021. So here's the thing. And granted, it's Vandy, so I understand. 2-10 his first year. I mean, at least he didn't go 2-10 in his fifth year. 5-7 in his second year. 2-10 in his third year. And again, granted, it's Vanderbilt. And then in 2024, he goes up to 7-6. And we know he beat Bama. And then this year, he's 6-1, win over LSU. I mean, Vandy's one of the better teams in the SEC, it looks like. Does that translate to Florida State? Can he find his next Diego Pavia? I don't know. Leia's a good real deal. He's a defensive guy, coached Notre Dame, and has NFL guys on staff. Schumann. That y'all brought up Schumann. Let's talk about Schumann for a bit. Here's my problem with Schumann. Are y'all watching Georgia's defense? It ain't that good. Who's to blame for that? I kind of have reservations about certain guys. Glenn Schumann. How much is this guy responsible for? And here's the good news about Schumann. The man's been at Alabama and Georgia. He's been at the two best SEC schools in the last 10 years. So he's learned under the best. I'm a little bit more reserved though on Schumann. I don't know. He has no head coaching experience, which doesn't necessarily matter. Jimbo Fisher didn't have head coaching experience. The positives on Schumann is like I just said. The man's been at the two premier programs, probably in college football, since 2008. And he was born in 1990. Schumann's younger than me, and I'm 37. So that's an interesting hire as well. We talk about getting a young head coach. It's a very interesting hire. Talk about a 35-year-old coach. Very interesting hire. Definitely has the ties to the South that you would want. Again, has learned from some of the best. He's an Alabama alum. So Schumann has a lot of things that I think you would like. I think you got a question, can he run a program? He's been the DC. He was the co-DC at Georgia from 2019 to 23. So he's only been the full-time DC for about a year at Georgia. I don't know, is that enough? Schumann's a interesting hire. I'm not a fan of the way Georgia's defense looks this year, though. Take that for what it's worth. I don't think here's a nasty little truth. I don't think a lot of these schools have a lot of options. Name me the Power 4 coach, the big name that, because everybody always wants the big sexy name. But who is that guy right now? Kirby's not leaving Georgia, obviously. Lanning's not leaving Oregon, obviously. I can't think who's the guy. Who's the Power 4 premier sexy head coach looking for? Like, who is that guy? Campbell at Iowa State? Fleck at Minnesota? You think Florida's going to go with an Iowa State coach or a Minnesota coach? Not just Florida, but Florida State as well. Who's the big Power 5 or Power 4 coach? I don't think Lane Kiffin's probably the big, because they coaches at Ole Miss, and like I've always said, Ole Miss is Ole Miss. Lane is probably the big name, and I don't know if Lane's going to leave Ole Miss. He's not going to leave Ole Miss right now. They're still in the playoff hunt and all that good stuff, even though they just lost to Georgia. Lane still got a lot to play for right now. I don't think Lane is a name right now that is realistic for a lot of these schools. Like, I think Florida's going to try, but I don't think they're going to get him. If they do get him, I hope we get our coach and nail it, because Lane and Mario in the state of Florida is going to be interesting. I got to see Leia without. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. And that's true. A good point from KCS. Pavia is doing his thing, but right, Vandy's playing good defense as well. So, good point. Dan Mullen, I'm probably good on that. Fran Brown, I like Fran Brown too. Fran Brown also does some things that I don't like. He talks a little bit too much. He does some stuff that I don't know. He had Syracuse running wind sprints after a game. I believe it was a UConn game, and they won that game, I think barely. But he had them running wind sprints. I don't know how you look at that. I kind of look at it as kind of like, okay. You know what I'm saying? You either love that or hate that. I'm in the middle of that. My problem with Fran Brown, and I'm just going to be honest with you, and I said it before. I said it in the last live stream. My problem with Fran Brown is I think Fran Brown's too much of a And excuse my French, he's too much of a nigga for Florida State to hire him. I'm just gonna keep it a buck with y'all. I don't know. I don't know if that's happening. I don't know if that's happening. Caveman asks, with firing a head coach typically, what do you think a good amount would be to hire a new coach and coaching staff? That's a whole different conversation. Because I think these universities are going to, what I think they should do, should I say, is to restructure this stuff. Uh, and I'll give credit to the Noel Cast and Bud Elliott on this one because this is where I got it from. But I thought he hit the nail on the head. The next head coach should not get some 10-year deal worth $80 million. And that's not just at Florida State, that's at every head coaching job. Like you handcuff your program when you do that. And these athletic departments have to be smarter than that. 3 to 4 year deals, and we'll reassess you after the 3 to 4 years. Or if you're really cooking by year 3 and 4, then we can extend you. But this whole 6-7 year deals off the rip worth $90 million is a lot of time it's what's killing some of these programs, right? So I don't have an answer of the amount of money it would take, but if FSU's smart, you don't go into this thing. That's FSU, Florida, Penn State, all of these available jobs. You got to be more reserved. And if a team wants to pay a coach that, you let them do that. But I don't know. Especially with the way the game is now, you're no longer just paying head coaches a bunch of money. You also have to invest X amount of dollars in your yearly roster because college football is a yearly revolving door now. So your roster has to be built yearly, and all these other things, right? So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, caveman. Hopefully you make the smart choice. And I agree. That's what I'm saying. You talk about the power forward coaches. Lane's the only one, and he does come with some questions, right? There's not a big power four option out there. So whether it's Florida State or whoever, you're probably going G5. You have to make the right G5 pick, or you talk about the Vandy guy, right? Mike Gundy. Get the hell out of here with Mike Gundy. And again, I like Fran Brown. I don't think he's a valid option for the Seminoles. I wouldn't mind it though. I wouldn't mind it. So the big name that we haven't mentioned yet, and this is probably, in my opinion, would not only be the safest hire, but probably the smartest hire, James Franklin. One, he's available. Two, he's getting paid money already. $50 million, I think, was his buyout. Maybe you could get him cheaper. Maybe you could get him for the cheap and then put a lot of incentives in his contract, right? If you win X amount of dollars, you win X amount of games, you get X amount of dollars, make a playoff appearance, an ACC championship appearance, right? Maybe you can get him on a relatively cheap, whatever we consider cheap is in today's climate, and then incentivize bigger payouts for him and his staff based on performance, which is, I'm not even sure why colleges already don't do that. Instead, they just say, hey, you're worth $12 million. We're going to pay you $12 million a year. Maybe that's something you can do with a guy like James Franklin. What I don't understand is the kickback on Franklin. I don't understand why everybody's so reserved or so against the James Franklin thing. Because All I've heard is, "Oh, Franklin don't win big games." Bro, Franklin, until this year, he didn't lose games he wasn't supposed to lose. The man lost to Ohio State and Michigan, and I get it. He could never win those games, and I get it. If you're one of those people that are against Franklin and you go, man, the man couldn't win any of those games, why would you want him here? Here's the thing. James Franklin was at Penn State for 12 years, I think. I want you to go, first of all, how many top 10 recruiting classes did Penn State have in James Franklin's tenure at Penn State? That's the first question I ask. See, Antoine, I disagree. Show me in Penn State where he was losing to those caliber of opponents. He was not. Again, he was beating the teams he was supposed to beat. He couldn't beat the big dogs, but he's also at Penn State. Again, I'll ask the question. How many top 10 recruiting classes did he have at Penn State? I can answer it for you because I've already looked it up. He had 2. In 12 years, the man had 2 top 10 classes. His highest one was ranked 6th. The next one was ranked 8th. Now, let's compare that same time frame to Ohio State. Ohio State is a top 5 class yearly. No debate. No question. Ohio State yearly is from 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Is it a shocker? Same thing with Michigan. Go check out Michigan. Michigan had a couple bad recruiting years by their standards, but almost annually, Michigan's definitely top 10 and was in top 5 a lot of those times. Annually. The man was playing behind the 8 ball at Penn State trying to beat those 2 programs. Also 2 programs that have won the last 2 national championships, by the way. So it's not like he was losing the chopped liver, which is what you're insinuating by saying we were losing to Stanford and UVA. I disagree heavily with that. I know what happened this year, which is why they fired him. He basically lost this team. I won't say he lost the team, but he that UCLA loss is egregious. But this is the first year that happened to him. Go check his track record with the draft. Go check his track record. The man can evaluate talent. Even though he wasn't bringing in the top classes, he was getting a lot of players drafted, evaluating talent, developing said talent. So the question you have to ask yourself, is FSU one of the big dogs in the ACC? Or can they be again? Because resources-wise, what ACC team has more resources than Florida State? Clemson looks like a sinking ship. We all know the stubbornness of Dabo Swinney. He don't even want to address any of his needs in the portal. Well, we know Franklin will do that, and he'll recruit well. Is Franklin good enough to stick with Miami? I think so. I mean, I don't really get the kickback. If your argument is that man couldn't win the top games, look who he was losing to. That's like asking Louisville, why are you losing to Clemson yearly? Well, look how the difference in recruiting. That's why Louisville was losing to Clemson yearly. Right? But Louisville had some good teams. I think it's kind of a very similar situation. So, oh, you said wouldn't. I'm sorry. I misread it. I thought you said Franklin would have us. You're right. I misread it. My apologies. You were agreeing with me. Sorry about that. You said wouldn't. I read would. So you're right. So we're on the same page, Antoine. My apologies. My apologies. I don't mind Franklin at all. What we wouldn't gone after him before Taggart. I don't know if he can still get it done. I think Franklin has a lot of left in the tank, personally. Vitek already ahead of us on the Franklin hire, though. Do you think so? Because I don't. If you're Franklin, you're taking Virginia Tech over Florida State? I don't think so. Not if FSU shows legit interest. I don't believe that. You can't convince me Virginia Tech's a better job than Penn State. Excuse me, than Florida State. I don't know. I don't know about that. Virginia Tech might end up with the next Beamer. Franklin has zero interest in FSU. Well, Champ 99, I don't know that. Maybe you know that. I don't know the man personally. I don't know what interest he has in Florida State right now. If he wants to get back into coaching, what's the top job out there? Florida? He doesn't have interest in Florida State, but he has interest in Florida. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know that. Virginia Tech, like someone else mentioned, I don't know. I don't know that. Right? So despite not being able to recruit on the same clip as Ohio State and Michigan, the man was yearly the third best team in the was just in the playoffs, semifinals last year, was almost in the national championship game. Like, yeah, and I probably take Franklin over Lane too. So I think Franklin's kind of that's the safe hire. And that is one that I think the man doesn't have a job. So it might legitimately be an opportunity there. Outside of those names that we mentioned, what else are we looking at? We didn't mention Jimbo. Let's talk about Jimbo. Here's the facts. That's not happening. There's some things working against Jimbo. And then not only that, do I think Jimbo wants to get back into coaching? Yes. Do I think Florida State is the place for that? As much as I would like to say, let's bring Jimbo back, and I would like to say that, there's some questions that would have to be addressed. There's some relationships and bridges burnt that he would have to try to patch up. I don't think Jimbo Fisher is a legit option. I really don't. I really don't think he's a legit option. I know I was saying it for a while because, I'm tired of Mike Norvell. So it's like, man, bring me Jimbo. The hell with Mike Norvell, right? But looking at it from just a realistic standpoint, and then you're asking a man to come back. Hartline is a name. Okay, we haven't talked about. Let's talk about Hartline here in a second. But I don't know. I don't necessarily know. Does Jimbo have some things working in his favor in terms of his old stomping grounds? And sure, the man can still recruit, obviously. So talent shouldn't be an issue. But obviously, Jimbo's got to. We're not going back to that old conventional offense, so he's got to bring in a modern day OC. We know he can hire a staff, right? Those are all things working in his favor. I just don't know. I don't think Jimbo's legit option from a admin standpoint. Jimbo would be like, okay, everybody else has declined us. Let's take a shot at that one. But Champ brought up Hartline. That's a name I like, but I also have some reservations on him. Is he really a head coach? We know he can recruit. We know he can go into South Florida, the state of Florida, the South period. How much of that is just having Ohio State on his chest? And how much of that is he just got those chops? Yeah, I have a lot of questions about Heartline. I don't mind the name. I know why people are interested. Um, Position coaches have worked before. Look at Dabo. Dabo was a position coach, took over Clemson, and the rest is kind of history there. I just That's an option. He just wouldn't be at the top of my list. Rhett Lashley is an interesting option as well. I like Rhett Lashley. Rhett Lashley's offense is very similar to what we kind of are already running. Do you want that? Do you have a problem with that? Those are the questions that you have about Rhett Lashley. Sporadics tweeted, yeah, okay. You can, yeah. We'll leave that there. If you believe that nonsense, then go for it. Run with it. Yeah. we'll just leave that there. Antoine says that's 2 losses Lane shouldn't have took last season. I thought they had better wins than most teams last year and would have been dangerous in the playoffs. Rhett has full support. I'm from SMU, and it's his alma mater. Yeah, the full support's awesome, but guys leave their alma maters all the time. Um, Hartline's the best recruiter in the country. We can hire coordinators for him. I don't necessarily disagree with you, champ. He might be your CEO type as a guy who's only ever been a position coach. There's just a lot that comes with being a head football coach at Florida State. Um, Again, and he's an option. I don't know if you make him a top option, but he's an option. Hartline damn near bought every 5-star player into OSU. As an assistant, he makes $4 million. He would be expensive. I think Franklin's the safest hire. That doesn't mean he's the best. The $1 million question is who's the best hire. That I don't have an answer for because I don't know. Baby Hartline's a gym just waiting. You know, Will Muschamp. No, no. Bring him in to be a DC, but no, not a head football coach. Maybe Hartline's a good gym, and he may very well be. The question you have to ask if you're Florida State is, what are you looking for? You're looking for something, and there's no hire that I think is ever surefire. But again, are you looking for something safe? That's James Franklin. Are you looking for a splash? Hartline could be a splash if he's interested. I also get one thing. I will say this too. One thing about Hartline, I get the vibes that he doesn't really have the desire to be a head coach. He probably likes his gig. That he like someone said, he's making $4 million, and he's only being asked to recruit. Like he's got a pretty solid gig. Hartline might be happy where he's at. I have a question to whether or not he even has the desire to lead a program, right? But that could be the splash. The safe one is Franklin. And then some of these other guys are like the Summeralls and the Golishes are kind of like, okay, Elko, y'all can stop saying Mike Elko, bro. He's not leaving Texas A&M for Florida State. It's just not happening. Mike Elko's not leaving A&M. Y'all can stop it. Stop with the Mike Elkos. So a name we didn't mention, I just thought of this name, Tony Elliott at Virginia. Look where he's got Virginia at. He beat Florida State. I think Virginia is 6-1 on the year. It's Tony Elliott, a guy that y'all be interested in. Champ say Heartline's making $2 million a year, not $4 million. But Tony Elliott's an option too. I don't know how. That's probably not the sexy hire. But could be a quality hire. So there's options. There's a lot of options. Jay says, no, we good on Tony Elliott. Okay. It's just a name. We got to throw names out there because I don't know where this coaching search goes. So I think the more names in the basket, you know, the more we can try to navigate how this looks. But yeah, man. What has Tony done? Well, again, he's got Virginia now. Virginia. At 6-1. Virginia's in the running for the ACC championship. So there's that. Again, not saying Tony Elliott's an answer. I'm saying that's an option, right? We can name some options. JMU's coach, Bob Chesney. Young seems like the next good one, y'all. Okay, here's the question for Florida State. Do you take a swing on a young guy who's only head coached at James Madison? I don't know. That's what this administration is going to have to figure out. The Bama OC Ryan Grubb, another option. So there are options. You guys are naming some guys. Kellen Moore, isn't he in? He's in the NFL, right? Is Kellen Moore? Is there an NFL? So we got Kellen Moore. Is there other NFL coaches that you think would be good college coaches? A lot of those NFL guys don't normally leave for college because it's a whole different ball game. And the NFL guys don't want to chase around the 16-year-old and blow smoke up their skirts and tell them how great they are, right? So I don't know if that's in Kellen Moore's wheelhouse. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So you guys are naming some good guys. Just keep all those guys on your hot board. Because there's also a guy like John Gruden who's been rumored. John Gruden's been rumored to be coming to college coaching. I'm not saying I want him at Florida State. I'm just saying been rumored. UVA has beaten Florida State and Louisville that beat Miami. So, UVA is kind of looking pretty good right now. He keeps that up. Tony Elliott might have a job somewhere else next year. The Miami defensive coordinator could be in the running for some jobs. Somebody said Miami offensive coordinator. Well, Jay, the Belichick hire should have never been a thing. Personally. Jeff Brom. I know a lot of people are talking about Brom. I don't think Brom would leave Louisville. And I know I said that guys leave their alma maters all the time, but I'm not so sure about that one. I like Brom, but I don't know how realistic that is. Heartline, Josh Grizzard, John Sumrall. We talked about two of those guys. We didn't talk about Josh Grizzard, and I'm not a Grizzard. Grizzle, Gizzard, and I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm not even familiar with them because I'm not familiar with every, but I will look them up real quick. Josh Glizzy. The OC for the Bucks. He's also 35 and young. Went to Yale. Coach, he's been in the Panthers, Duke, the Dolphins, and now the Bucks. So he doesn't really have a lot of coach. He doesn't have. So the first problem I have with Grizzard, the Gliz man, not a lot of college coaching ties. That's an issue for me when we talk about, what do we talk about? Recruiting. The man spent 3 years at Duke of all places, and he's got another year at Yale. That's his college experience. Now he's been at Miami, he's been at Tampa Bay, he's been at Carolina. Again, does he have the recruiting chops? Yeah, I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. This might sound crazy, but our coach is going to be Stu. Mr. Blunt, I hope not. 10 years ago, I would have said, yeah. Stoops should have been one of the top candidates after Taggart. Hell, Stoops should have been one of the top candidates when Jimbo left, if we're being honest. Right? I think I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think the Stoops time has passed him by, and I don't think that would be a good hire now. Who would be your FSU player to bring in as a head coach if you had to choose one? Pope Prime, Chris Winkie. If I had to choose a FSU, maybe Terrell Buckley. B-Max gives some great speeches. Can he recruit? Can he do all these other things? I don't know. I like B-Mac. I don't know about coaching, though. Winkie. I don't know about Winkie. I can't think of Terrell Buckley. I'm going with T-Buck. If I had to pick one. I'm not against Deion per se. I'm not going to even sit here and pretend like I would campaign for Deion. But it got Deion, he's doing some things at Colorado that I don't like. When we talk about recruiting, now I get it. You put Deion and back in Garnet and goal, and you can argue that thing recruits itself. But Deion don't like to do visits. He don't like. I don't know how that flies. And then his health is a concern. So I'm not. Yeah, I don't know about Deion Sanders, to be quite honest with you. So the positives you can say for Deion, Tallahassee's going to be jumping every Saturday. That's the positives. Tallahassee's going to be jumping every Saturday. The attention's going to be, there's going to be a microscope, for better or worse. I do think Deion will put a staff together. But there's also a boatload of questionable stuff with Deion that's hard for me to get over. I'm not even going to lie to you. So, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I would campaign for Deion Sanders. I'm not even going to lie to you. That's just me, though. Oregon offensive coordinator Will Stein. I think they're going to have – they might have to – there's nothing wrong with going a coordinator route. I'm okay with that. Just got to be the right guy. They just got to be the right guy. Mike Shanahan from Indiana is a interesting name. That's a good one. That's a good one. But that's all I got tonight, guys. We already been on here for 2 hours, so I'm going to get on up out of here. It's getting late. And T-Buck has head coaching experience. So that's another reason why I kind of named T Buck. Um, but I'm gonna get up out of here. I thought it was a good conversation tonight, especially when we got into the coaching stuff and some of that other stuff. But we hit on everything I wanted to hit on. FSU needs to make the move. Doesn't look like they're going to, for better or worse. I don't know. Take that for what it's worth. Um, you have a lame duck coach, and the university's behind this lame duck who's lost his locker room. I think he's losing his. I think he's losing his coordinators. Those coordinators don't seem to really like each other. So his coaching staff doesn't like each other. Coaches don't like. Players don't like. It's Tallahassee is a mess right now, and something needs to happen. But guess what? The good thing is we got this to talk about for the next few months because we damn sure don't have football to talk about with the product that we're getting on the field. So at least I can have some type of excitement coming on here at least once a week and continue to talk about firing this guy. That's a positive because the football team ain't. But with all that said, guys, again, hit that like button for me if you haven't. Share the video for me. And subscribe if you're new. If you're new around here, please subscribe. And again, bye week. So please enjoy your weekend. You don't have to watch piss poor football. Go enjoy your weekend. And with all that said, as always, it's your boy POLK over here on 863 Seminole TV. Stay classy, Seminoles, and we are out here. Go Noles.